So in these first two examples, we're going to find the missing value by just plugging our numbers into our equation. So I equals PRT. I, we're not sure, so we're going to keep it a variable. Principal here is $575 times a rate of 8%. As a decimal, that's 0 and 800ths because I moved the decimal 2 places to the left. And then my time in years is 3 years. So I have 3 numbers that I just plugged into my formula, P times R times T. And now I'm just going to use my calculator to multiply 575 times 0 and 8/100ths times 3 years. And when I do that, my interest is showing up I equals $138. So what this means is that in order to borrow $575 at a rate of 8% over the course of 3 years, it would cost us $138 in interest to make that decision. This next one's a little bit tougher because as we use our formula I equals PRT, and I do want you to write that each time so that it gets drilled in your head. You will have to know that formula for tests and quizzes. Our interest is $204. That's equal to our principal of $1,700 times our rate, which we don't know, times our time in years, which is 6 years. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to multiply on this side what I can, 1,706, because we can multiply in any order according to the commutative property of multiplication. We can multiply in any order. So I'm going to multiply the 2 on the ends, 1,700 times 6. When I do that, I get 10,200 times R is equal to our interest, $204. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 10,200. And this should give me my rate. 204 divided by 10,200 gives me a decimal of 0 and 2/200ths is equal to my rate. Remember that your rate is a percent written as a decimal. So if I move it 2 places to the right, my rate on this loan was 2%, which is actually a really good interest rate if you can find that. So in this situation, someone borrowed $1,700 at a rate of 2% for the next 6 years, and it's going to cost them in interest $204 to borrow this amount of money, this principal. So as we keep going, we're going to do 2 more together. It says find the simple interest for $500 invested in a savings account at 3 2/2500% for 3 years. So there are times where we get charged interest. There are also times where we gain interest. So there were banks where when you put your money in, they pay you interest to keep your money at their bank. And so that's what's happening in this situation. We're trying to find the simple interest. So I'm going to put a question mark next to that I. Our principal, the amount that we invest right off the beginning, it's our starting value is $500. So P equals 500. Our rate is a decimal written as a percent, so 3 2/2500% written as a decimal. We've got to move that decimal 2 places to the left, and we get 325/10,000 as my rate. And then our time in years, T stands for time, is 3. So when we plug this into our formula, I equals PRT, our interest we don't know, so I'm going to leave it a variable. Our principal is 500 times our rate of 0 and 325/10,000ths times our time, which is 3 years. If you pull out your calculator, the calculator should do the math for you. 500 times 0 and 325/10,000ths times 3 years is equal to $48.75. Our interest is always the amount of money that we pay to borrow that loan, or the amount of money in this case that the bank is going to pay us in 3 years at 3 2/2500%. If we invest $500, the bank, without us doing anything, just because we have our money there, is going to pay us $48.75 to keep our money here at this bank. So let's do one more before I challenge you. If you borrow $12,000, $12,000, that sounds like a principal. That sounds like a starting amount. So I'm going to put that next to P. for 30 months. Remember that time has to be in years. So if it's in years, we have to do 30 divided by 12. 30 months divided by 12 months to see how many years we have. And that's 2.5 years. So our time is actually 2 5/10 because it has to be written in years. That's what we put up here. So you might want to come back and put a little star next to it so that you don't forget. For this formula, time must always be in years. And then 6 5/10%. Remember, we're going to move the decimal 2 places to the left to get our rate as a decimal. So 65 thousandths is my rate, my interest rate. What is the total amount you will have to repay? Now we're talking about the total amount we have to repay. So remember that you not only have to pay back the money in interest, but you also have to pay back what you borrowed, which is $12,000. So interest we're not sure about right now. I'm going to put a little question mark there. And I'm going to start with my formula, I equals PRT. And I is going to stay a variable. My principal is $12,000 times my rate of 0 and 65 thousandths times my time, which is 2 5/10 years. When I plug all of that into my calculator, 12,000 times 0 and 65 thousandths times 2 5/10 years, I get 1,000. My interest is $1,950. However, I not only have to pay my interest, which is the fee for borrowing the money, but I also have to pay the money that I borrowed to start with, which is $12,000. So I'm going to do $12,000 plus $1,950 to get the total amount that we have to repay, which is different than just finding the missing value, finding simple interest. This is asking for the total amount that we repay. So 1,950 plus 12,000 gives us $13,950 as our total amount. At this point in time, I would challenge you to try these last two on your own, see how you do, and then watch the last video to see if you got them correct or not.